I think you're going to realize that I wrote these very beginning words of this message with a very thankful heart. And here's what I wrote. No better thing than a church where people love each other and feel safe enough to be themselves, to be honest, where they don't have to pretend to be perfect or have it all together. Thankful that Harvest is that kind of church. This is a church where people can feel open, be open about their hurts and needs, especially their need for healing, knowing that they will neither be judged nor looked down on. I love that Harvest at our core believes and regularly practices healing prayer for one another. And we do that because we love and serve a God who is good and merciful and powerful, and who loves us so much that he wants to bless us and help us and heal us. A good Father who delights in giving good gifts to his children. Let's face it, we all need his healing love in some way. Whether it's physical healing, whether it's spiritual healing, emotional healing, relational healing, you name it, whatever kind of issues are going on in our lives, I'm convinced that every single one of us in this room needs his healing in some way for something that's going on in our lives right now. I want to read you this story from one of our team members who went to Thailand with us in last fall. He says, my wife has struggled with celiac disease for many years. On our ministry trip to Thailand, we were at the Seed Cafe where people come to worship and pray for the city and the country. One of the ministry leaders approached me and she asked if I had a wife with an infirmity of some kind. So understanding that this ministry leader does not know this gentleman at all, completely meeting for the first time. I said, yes, that my wife has celiac disease and a few other things. She said that when I got home, I should pray healing over her and then share communion with her. My wife had received healing prayer for this condition about a year earlier, but nothing had changed. In her own words, I had to get over my feeling of unworthiness and of bothering God. I didn't have cancer or terminal illness, so I felt it was not that important. And I know as I'm reading these words, there's some of you thinking that very, very same thing today. I just want you to know it is that important. Whatever thing it is. And you'll just say, oh, it's just a little thing. Not to God. It's a big thing. It's important to him. Every little thing matters to him. Every big thing matters to him. Please, please don't give into that lie. Please expose it as for what it is. It's a lie. It's a lie to keep you away. Everything you're going through is important to God. Let me continue the story. When I got home from Thailand, the gentleman writes, I prayed over my wife and we shared communion. A few days later, she tried some bread, no issues. A few days after that, she made one of her favorite things in the whole world, cinnamon buns. Person after my own heart, I'll go for that. And again, no issues. She has had no issues eating bread since. It's been a number of months now, and she has had no problems with gluten. He says, praise the Lord, and we say praise the Lord to that too. I'm wondering, and this is completely on a rabbit trail, but if there's some kind of connection there between communion and healing, and I'm talking to God about it, exploring it a bit more, because I think there's something important about by his stripes we are healed, the bread, right? Yeah, there's something about the power of communion. So more to come on that particular front. We're going to have an opportunity for healing prayer today. And also for words of knowledge. And what I mean by that is I want you to listen as I'm speaking today. And I want you to listen to the Holy Spirit and what he may give you as a sense of needs that are here today. perhaps things that you don't know, you'll just put it in your mind. And I'm just going to have a chance for people to share those, and it may connect with somebody. And if so, that's great. And again, no pressure. It doesn't have to happen, but that's just an opportunity to minister in that way. But for sure, we're going to have people come up that want to pray for your healing today. And we want you to be free in this very, very safe, loving environment to do that. You see, because I also love that we're a people who are learning and growing in this area of healing prayer ministry, right? Sometimes we're the ones receiving the prayer. We need prayer. Sometimes we're the ones giving it. That's the beauty of the body, right? Is that sometimes we're just, we have to receive. And I've been prayed for so many times. And then there's so many other times that I prayed for other people. God just wants to equip us to step out in faith along with others. Always good to pray with another person, a partner if you can, to learn how to pray for people's healings. And I'll continue my rejoicing here. We are also a people who rejoice together when God answers our prayers for healing. And, listen, we're also a people who don't give up when our prayers are not answered in the way that we've asked, knowing that answers to prayer are up to God and not in our hands to grant. And I love that this is a safe place to try and to fail, to try things and to fail. And again, failure is the wrong word, but I just want to say it's okay to learn by trying. And if things don't go the way we'd hope, that's not the end of the world. It's a learning experience. We keep going. Failure is not a kingdom concept. Learning and growing and obedience is a kingdom concept. So if we're called to pray for people's healings, let's do it. And if everybody's not healed when we pray, that's okay, because it's not up to us. But we just keep going in faith. Let's do that. Even today, when we do pray for people at the end of the service, if that's not normally you, or you would say, well, that's for the people that really know how to do that, not me. Challenge that one too. Think that through a little bit. Maybe it is time for you to step up and pray with someone that's maybe a little more experienced. But instead of just, again, believing that lie of, no, never, not me. Wait expectantly. 2 weeks ago, Pastor Nathan shared that word from Acts 1. What a great word. What an awesome truth from God's heart. Wait expectantly. Waiting, man, that's hard sometimes. This gal was prayed for a year before on the celiac thing, nothing. She could tend to give up. Some of you could say the same thing. We've been praying for this situation for years, nothing, no changes. Prayer, you're saying for some condition, nothing. You've been praying for this loved one, nothing. And then you just tend to want to give up. One other lie we have to challenge and expose with God's love and his goodness. He's saying, don't give up. Don't give up. Wait expectantly and move in faith. Don't give up praying. Keep on going. Okay, all of this brings me to a story in the New Testament that addresses the mystery of unanswered prayer and the powerful way God does answer prayer for healing. I think it's all in this story. Story of Lazarus and his sisters, Mary and Martha in John 11. Story that shows the surprising way Jesus responds to a huge and desperate need when he hears the news about his friend Lazarus passing away, which I think is a very appropriate post-Easter sermon. Lord, speak to us. God, speak to us. Holy Spirit, speak to us. We need you, God. We need you. We need you. We depend on you, Lord. We love you just so much, God. The bottom of our hearts, we just love, this love for you is uncontainable. God, move among us today. Work among us, Lord. I'm just thinking of that dear soul that's here today that really needs healing. Oh, God, let this be their day. Let it be their day. Oh, God, just work among us, God. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, God. Okay, John 11, if you want to follow in your Bible. Today I decided to have it put on the screen, and you're going to see why, because I see 7 categories. We're just going to read it through, so don't get freaked out when I say 7. It's just that there's 7 sections, and we're going to read through these 44 verses, but we're going to fly. I mean, not way too fast, but just the right pace, okay? So, begins at the beginning. First section is called A Loving Friendship. Now, a man named Lazarus was sick. He was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. This Mary, whose brother Lazarus now lay sick, was the same one who poured perfume on the Lord and wiped his feet with her hair. Now, to find that story, you have to go one more chapter to chapter 12. That's where that happens. Now you're saying, well, what about the sinful lady, that came and poured? There appears to be more than one pouring of perfume on Jesus' feet story, okay? So sometimes you get confused. Was there just one Mary and just one person do it? Looks like there were two. So this is this Mary's story of when she did the same extravagant act of love by pouring this perfume on Jesus' feet and wiping his feet with her tears, with her hair, it says, rather. Beautiful stuff. So the sisters sent word to Jesus. That's what prayer is in my mind, We send word to Jesus. Lord, the one you love is sick. And when he heard this, Jesus said, this sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it. Now, Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. And I want you to know, Jesus loves you. You are the one he loves. And just like these three were his friends, same is true about you here today. And a matter of fact, if Matthias had read further in John 15 this morning for the lectionary readings, you'd have gotten to that verse that said, I no longer call you slaves, servants, but I have called you my friend. And I just think it's so important at the beginning of this story that we establish it, because that's what God's establishing at the beginning of this story. This is all about loving friendship, what's about to take place. And it's not all easy, let me tell you right now. So we got to know this. For what we're facing in our lives, what we're going through, sometimes we can doubt it. Does God care? What's going on? It's all on the basis of his love and his friendship for us. Okay, let's move. The need for help and a surprising response. Verse 6. So, when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was for 2 more days. And then he said to his disciples, let us go back to Judea. Jesus didn't run immediately to be with his sick friend. He stayed where he was. That doesn't necessarily make sense. He said to his disciples, let's go back to Judea. But Rabbi, they said, a short while ago the Jews there tried to stone you, and yet you're going back? Jesus answered, are there not 12 hours of daylight? Anyone who walks in the daytime will not stumble, for they see by this world's light. It is when a person walks at night that they stumble, for they have no light. And after he had said this, he went on to tell them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I am going there to wake him up. His disciples replied, Lord, if he sleeps, he's going to get better. Jesus had been speaking of his death, but his disciples thought he meant his natural sleep. So then he told them plainly, Lazarus is dead. I kind of like that. When I hear that, I just am Jesus just being really direct and honest. Guys, Lazarus is dead, okay? He's dead. D-E-A-D, not moving. Guys, Lazarus is dead. And for your sake, okay, listen to this. I am glad I was not there, so that you may believe, but let us go to him. That's the surprising response. Are you kidding me, God? Look at this need. You're not doing anything about it? Do you sometimes doubt God in that way? His interest in you, his goodness towards you? Do you think he doesn't care for you? Do you doubt sometimes his ability to do anything for you? So why bother to ask, right? I'll only be disappointed once again. Let's keep going. The anguish of unanswered prayer. Verse 17, let me find it here. On his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now, Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem, and many Jews had come to Mary and Martha to comfort them in the loss of their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed at home. "Lord," Martha said to Jesus, "if you had been here, my brother would not have died." The anguish of unanswered prayer. We've all been there. Face it, we've all been there. Some of you are there right now, asking God, why? I mean, Lord, you know the need. I've talked to you about it. And if you had done something, things would be different. Why, God, are you not answering my prayer? Like when my dad passed away in the 1980s, a long time ago. Not a Christian as far as I know. As a matter of fact, I know he wasn't a Christian. We had conversations, lots of them. You know, the story, some of you do know, divorced and didn't grow up with him at all. Found him later when I was 19. Built a relationship, tried to shared our faith, all my brothers and I. And then when I got the call that he died, I'm just going, God, where is he? Is he with you or is he not? And you guys, the anguish that I felt that time, why didn't you change him? Why couldn't you have saved him? God, we told him about you. And I really, really struggled with that. And I still don't know. When I'm really hoping that I'm going to meet him in heaven, but I have no clue. But it's that anguish of why. God, we've been pleading with you to save his soul. Don't know what happened. Or like when a pastor friend of mine, got the shocking call that one of his adult sons had committed suicide. What do you do with that? What do you do with that when you get that call? Completely unexpected and out of the blue. No one in the family had any sense that this guy was struggling. Everybody thought he was fine. He was engaged. Wedding was just a few months coming up. Gone. Okay, that's just anguish, folks. That's just grief. And it's supposed to be hard. It is hard. The sisters, Mary and Martha, were in anguish over their brother's death. And they had questions, hard questions for Jesus. They had regrets. They had guilt. They had self-blame, anger, grief. Why? But the important thing is asking the hard questions, pouring out our anguish and our doubts and our hurt and our anger and our disappointment instead of bottling it all up like so many people do. Instead of isolating ourselves and withdrawing from other individuals and from God. You need to know from this story that it is okay to feel your grief and to express your grief. God, why? As a matter of fact, you need to feel it because you've had a loss, and the loss you've had is sad and it hurts and it's deep and it's painful. And our culture specializes in removing hurt and pain just as quickly as we possibly can, through isolation, through independence, through finding all kinds of ways to make ourselves feel better. That's what our culture says. Do that and get it over with and get back to life again. Don't hurt so much. And the Lord would say the opposite. He would say, I want you to feel that grief. Don't try to make sense of it right now. Don't try to make yourself feel better too soon. Especially this, don't try to resolve it with quick and easy answers. Oh, God must have a plan, must have a purpose for my hurting. Yeah, it sounds okay, but sometimes it just hurts. Come on. And please reach out to caring and loving people who can be there for you. Please do it. Please do it. That's part of today, too. We're going to have people standing up here that care, that love. And it can bring the love, compassion of Jesus to you today. Take advantage of it. All right, let's move out of anguish into the stirring of faith and hope, starting at verse 27 or 22. Martha, but I know that even now God will give you Whatever you ask for, she says to Jesus. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Hope stirring. Martha said, yeah, I know he'll rise again in the resurrection on the last day. Jesus said to her, now this is the heart of the passage, so look at this really carefully. I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live even though they die. Got to read that again. The one who believes in me will live even though they die. I found this to be such an encouraging passage to preach on at a funeral of a believer because it is true. Even though you die, you live. Yes, in heaven for sure, but you know what? You can even live here now. You can find life again instead of the tomb, instead of the place of death. That's what God's giving us. Let me read some more. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this? Yes, Lord. She replied, I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who is to come into the world. Martha starts to look at Jesus once again, to listen to what he's saying, to remember who he is and what he can do. His power, his authority, his love, and compassion, and that's exactly what we need to do here today, to get our eyes back on Jesus when everything else tells us to give up, to abandon hope, succumb to our circumstances, give up on the hope of healing, believe the lie, nothing will ever change, things will never get better, I will never get better, my loved one will never get better. God gave me an amazing picture when I was writing this message at this point right here in the passage, and it was one of Jesus taking Martha's face in his hands gently. So I'm not sure if I should experiment, but kind of like this. Sorry, Rochelle. Taking his face. And you know, when our kids were little, I don't know if you parents did this, but when they were all kind of blah, 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 all over the place and sort of unsettled and just kind of like needed to calm down, we would take their face gently with our hands. Look at me. No, look at me. Look at me. And I see Jesus doing this right now with Martha. Martha, look at me. Sorry, I know I'm freaking out by coming up, but just assume that I'm just gently holding Rochelle's face. And he's saying, no, Martha, look at me. Look at me. I know there's lots of noise out there. I know there's lots of bad things happening right now. I know you see the tomb and your brother's in it. I know there's people crying and mourning everywhere. I know you've got lots of things distracting you, but Martha, just look at me for a minute. And when she is able to do that, things begin to change for her. Hope is stirred. She starts to remember who he is. And when you see the eyes of Jesus and the love that's there and the care and the compassion, things start to come together. Hope starts to be reborn and stirring once again. That is what Jesus is asking us to do. That there is life instead of death, that there is peace and joy once again. There are better days coming. There is healing, restoration, renewal, because this is what Jesus does, the one who says, I am the resurrection and the life. We've got to look at him. We've got to keep our focus there. That's where we want to take you today as we pray, to the face of Jesus, to the very presence of Jesus, to his healing power. Did you notice that when Martha goes there with Jesus and he asks her this powerful question, do you believe this? And you can see with her beautiful answer that she really does. She says in verse 27, yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God who is to come into the world. Here's what we learn. The birth of faith and hope comes from two things. Focus on the person of Christ, like we've just been talking about, his love and resurrection power, but also our declaration of faith. Also our declaration of belief. Yes, Lord, I believe. Faith and hope are released through a declaration of truth. How do I know this? Paul says in Romans 10, you know how to be saved? Here's how to be saved. Declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead. There is something so powerful about declaring truth about who God is and what he can do. That will happen today in these prayer groups. The person that's praying is going to be declaring truth to you, and you can receive that, and you can say, yes, yes, Lord, I believe. Okay, let's come towards the end. A couple more sections, I think. Is there? Number 5. We go back to anguish. Verse 28. After she had said this, she went back and called her sister Mary aside. The teacher is here, she said, and is asking for you. So when Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet entered the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who had been with Mary in the house, comforting her, noticed how quickly she got up and went out, they followed her, supposing she was going to the tomb to mourn there. When Mary reached the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Exact script that her sister used. Sisters, eh? I mean, what's with that? What's with sisters? You know, she said exactly the same thing. Oh, dear. Sorry, Melissa. Jen, getting a little personal here, I understand. Yeah. But what's with that? You know, the exact same words. It's like they've been talking about this, you know, heard ahead of time. There is a rehearsed speech going on here. But they poured it out to Jesus, and as I made very clear today, I hope I have, that's okay. He welcomes it. Pour it out. Pour out your anguish and your questions. Let's keep reading from 33 on. When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. Where have you laid him? He asked. Come and see, Lord, they replied. Jesus wept. My favorite verse in the Bible, I think. Not just because it's so short and I could really memorize it well when I was a little kid, but it's just so packed with meaning, so packed with who God is. It's his nature. He weeps. He still weeps over our hurts, our sorrows. Jesus wept. I love the very real human emotions of Jesus. Then the Jews said, see how he loved him. But some of them had said, could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying? Jesus doesn't rebuke you for your hard feelings, your anguish, your grief, your questions, your doubts, your anger at him. He doesn't rebuke you for that. He welcomes it. He weeps alongside you. He offers you his heart of compassion, which is what people up here are going to offer you today as well. Back to that pastor friend of mine that I mentioned earlier who lost their son to suicide. He wrote a book about it, and he shares how he and his wife were able to survive that horrible loss through knowing how close, listen, through knowing how close Jesus was to them in their suffering and how tenderly he could relate to their suffering. That's what helped them. He writes this very short section I'm going to read. Where is God when everything goes wrong? Where is he when sleep won't come? Where is he when we wake up in a hospital bed with pain that will not stop? Where is he when the unthinkable happens? Let me assure you, he writes, that when you hurt, God hurts. When you're stuck in your prison, God is right there with you. He writes, why did Jesus weep at the tomb of Lazarus when he knew he was going to raise him from the dead? Good question. Because he connects with your sorrow. He's moved by it. He is in the moment with you. He cries with you. He weeps with us and understands our sorrows. When you wipe away tears of loneliness or frustration or anguish, in heaven, there is also a pierced hand approaching his own heavenly face, wiping away a tear. Thank you. But the main emotion Jesus is feeling right here in our story is love. Love. We've talked about that already. Deep love for his friends that are hurting. That's why there's such anguish, because of deep love. You only feel Hurt deeply because you love strongly. When you love something and it hurts you, that is a deep, deep pain. And that's what Jesus is feeling, the pain of loss. Very same kind of love he's feeling for you right now, all of you right now. In your hurt, in your doubt, in your confusion, whatever need for healing you have. That's maybe one good reason to come to the retreat I'm doing. Because what we're going to do there for those days is just counter God's love, counter the Father's love for us. And when we do, healing happens of all kinds. It's a good reason. If you know somebody that should go, tell them. Pick up a pamphlet. It's got lots of information. Final act. Exciting conclusion. A miraculous answer to prayer. Jesus, once more deeply moved, came to the tomb. It was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. "Take away the stone," he said. "But Lord," said Martha, the sister of the dead man, "by this time there's a bad odor, for he has been there 4 days." Then Jesus said, "Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone. Then Jesus looked up. "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me." And when he said this, Jesus called in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out!" Can you imagine that moment? Just put yourself in that story, okay? You're outside there. You want to see Lazarus. You want to believe Jesus can do something miraculous. What is that moment like? I mean, you probably could have heard a, pin drop, right? This expectation, this waiting expectantly. Well, we all know how it ends, but sometimes we read it so quick we don't really feel the story like we need to. The dead man came out. What does that look like? I mean, like the mummy, Think about that. I mean, he's all wrapped up. Hands and his feet were wrapped with strips of linen and a cloth around his face. And Jesus said, "Take off the grave clothes and let him go." And I just hear God saying so clearly that today he wants to unwrap some grave clothes that are in your lives, whatever it is. The grave clothes of that disease and that pain and suffering physically that you've had for years. This is the day that he wants to unwrap that. For some of you, that emotional pain you've been carrying for so long, Jesus wants to unwrap those grave clothes and set you free so that you're actually out of the tomb instead of stuck in it still, in that prison. Like he literally doesn't want you just to come out of the prison. He also wants you to be free of the stuff that's been holding you bondage. And that's what he does. And there's going to be people up here that are just here to bring you to Jesus and say, "Oh, in Jesus' name, may those grave clothes come off now. Take them off." And it takes other people to help with the grave clothes removal, because it's pretty tough when your hands are all bound up and you're a mummy. You can't exactly take off your own grave clothes. That's why you need people to pray for you.